Oh, good afternoon, Rabun County. It's Roger Glenn with Poss Realty. I'm really excited to be here today with Tom Schmitt, Soil Consulting, I guess is the name of your company.
Yeah.
Tom is the foremost probably soil scientist in Rabun County, and on a couple of occasions we have geeked out a little bit talking about geology and soil science. But in reality, it's a very important thing, especially for people that are considering building and some of those other issues. So we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Be glad to.
First thing, you're welcome. Thanks for taking your time. As you can see, we're out here in the Wolf Fork Valley on a job site. And so Tom's taking a little bit of time out of his busy schedule. But Tom, before we start talking about soil and some of the things you do, maybe you just give us a little bit of your personal history and your families with Rabun County.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, we moved to Rabun County in the year 2001. And prior to that, we were in Franklin, North Carolina, so just up north of the state line. And I came down here because that's where all my work was coming from at the time. We built a home down here, and so what's that, 21 years we've been here in Rabun County.
Almost 22.
Since 1985, I took a job with the state of North Carolina, the Department of Natural Resources, in 1985, and they put me in Franklin, and they gave me the keys, the master key to all the Forest Service gates, and they gave me a Jeep CJ7, and I thought I died and gone to heaven. We were making soil maps, Macon County, Clay County, Jackson, Cherokee, Buncombe, Madison. I was all over western North Carolina, and somewhere in about, I guess, 94, a friend asked me to do a soil evaluation. He wanted to put a septic system on a lot in Dillard. And I met Steve James from the Rabun. Here comes a dog. He's interested. We've got a live audience here, folks.
Right, you can't see. This is the beauty of these live videos. So,
but I met Steve James, and he said, "You're a soil scientist?" And I said, "Yeah, I was licensed by the state of North Carolina." He said, "Can I put your name on our list?" I said, "Sure." About a year later, I called Steve up and said, "Take my name off that list. I don't want to work this hard." But I was getting calls from Elberton to Ellijay and all over northeast Georgia. And it's just blossomed into a career for the past 36 years. Just doing soil evaluations, mostly for on-site septic systems. The health department requires a soil evaluation. You know, there's various places where you shouldn't put a septic system, like near that pond
right.
behind us here, or in this wet soil that we're standing on. There's a water table under our feet, and so that's the kind of thing I check. So yeah, I raised 2 kids in Macon County, and then our third grew up mostly here in Rabun County.
Yeah,
and we love it. Rabun County is a wonderful place.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
You know, it's funny, I've had clients on several occasions, just unsolicited. A client would say to me, "I have lived all over the world. I had a home in Thailand, I lived in Spain, and I've lived in New York, and I have a home in San Francisco." And he says, this area is the best place in the world to live.
Yeah.
Here, where we're at. We're living in the best place, folks.
Yeah.
So stay here, and if you don't live here, don't come here. You really wouldn't want to be here. But yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, you mentioned septics, because that when people think about, soil science and analysis, they most commonly think about septics, but it's really not as simple as can you have a septic or not. There are different types. Can you just sort of give us a 101 of septics and soil analysis and the kind of work that you do?
Yeah. Georgia regulations require a 24-inch separation between the bottom of an absorption trench and a restrictive layer like bedrock or a water table. And so if you have 40 inches of soil and then solid bedrock, you need to install that septic system 24 inches less than 40 inches. So what's that, 16 inches deep? You can do that, but there are some products that are 16 inches high, and so you don't want the product, the infiltrator panel or whatever you're using, you don't want that right up on the surface. So there's other options that you have, and that's what we try to figure out. There's a number of systems that are narrow width. There's a number of systems that are shallow depth, and then there are systems that are aerobic treatment. They treat the effluent before they put it in the soil. There are sand filter systems. Some systems require, for instance, 100 feet of drain line per bedroom. But then you can sometimes reduce that to 65 feet or 50 feet per bedroom. And it just depends on which kind of system you use. And then, of course, as you change in sophistication, you increase in price. And so those kind of options is what I try to figure out. What can the soil take? What are the options with the limitations on the lot, like 50 feet from surface water, or 100 feet from a well, or 5 feet from a property line? And I look at those kind of things and I try to come up with the cheapest, most reasonable, easiest to install system for the homeowner or the land buyer.
Right.
And we go from there.
Yeah. So people that are purchasing land, part of what we often recommend in terms of their due diligence is some of this soil analysis in order to ascertain if the land can hold a septic system.
You don't want to buy land that you can't put an on-site, well, unless you have a sewer system. Like if you live in Clayton, there's sewer, public sewer. But if you're out here in the county, you don't want to have land that you can't use. I did a soil evaluation up in Sky Valley back in probably 2001. Sandra Taylor was working for the health department at the time, and she was with me, and we looked all over that lot. And it was a rock outcrop and a steep cliff, almost a fall off the mountain kind of cliff. And we could not find 6 inches of soil. And later that night, the landowners called me and they said, "You mean to tell me we've been paying taxes on that property for 15 years and we can't build a house on it?" And I felt awful. I said, "Well, you can build a house on it, you just can't put your septic system on it."
You have to have an outhouse.
Yeah. Or buy some adjoining properties that has some good soil.
Yeah.
So you really need to check your soil and make sure it's suitable for on-site septic.
Yeah, money well spent. We were talking, I think the first time that we ever talked on the phone, and it came up about percolation tests per se, and you were kind of explaining to me the real science and the vernacular of that. Can you walk us through that real quick? Because a lot of people hear that term perk test,
right,
and it conjures up images, and so it'd be helpful for you to explain what the ground truth is, pun intended.
Sure. We refer to what we do, or generally people refer to what I do as a percolation test. But technically I don't do a percolation test, I do a soil evaluation. It used to be that surveyors or homeowners or the health department would come out and dig a hole in the ground and pour water in the hole and measure how quickly the water receded in that hole, and that way they would have a minute per inch rate, 30 minutes per inch for the water to recede, and that's a percolation test. In some cases, some rare cases, we still do that with some instruments that carefully measure that, but most of the time I use this thing
that thing.
And I drill a hole. Well, this is actually two things. This is my soil probe. Will you hold that, please?
Absolutely.
And this is a soil auger, 72-inch auger, and I'll use it with this ratcheted handle and drill a hole 72 inches deep if I can, and evaluate. I look at the structure, the texture, the consistency, and the color of the soil.
Yeah.
And those things tell you, they're going to tell you how quickly you put water in that soil or on that soil, how quickly that water is going to dissipate or be absorbed. And it's just a skill set that you learn, and you know, and it's common sense too. You know that sandy soil will percolate really quickly and clay soil will percolate slow. Well, most of what we have in Rabun County is a sandy loam, a loamy sand, a sandy clay loam. There's some clay loams, and there's a few places in Rabun County where I've found real clay soil, heavy clay, but that's pretty rare up here in the mountains. And we don't have expansive clays up here. In some places, a clay, when it gets wet, will swell up and shut, and water can't flow through it. We don't have those kinds of clays up here. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I look for. I don't do a percolation test. I do a soil evaluation.
Yeah, a soil evaluation sounds much cooler anyway.
Yeah.
What's the best way? I know you're not hurting for work. You've got a lot of work these days. You were telling me you've got a little bit of a backlog, but what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they're interested in having their land analyzed for a septic?
Probably the best way is to email me, georgiamountainsoil@gmail.com. georgiamountainsoil@gmail.com.
Okay, we'll link that.
My phone number is, the health department has my phone number, and various contractors can tell you my cell phone and my home phone. But to tell you the truth, it's really hard for me to keep my answer machine from not being full. I think my cell phone answer machine has it's been full for a year, and I can't unload it. It just fills up daily. But yeah, the best way, and if you have a plat of the property, if you and email me the plat to georgiamountainsoil@gmail.com.
Yeah.
That way it's in front of my face, it's in my mind, I print it out.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Now, if people have just purchased a home recently, there's probably a pretty good chance you were involved in some stage of the process in the past, perhaps, in putting the septic in.
That house right there, those three houses up on the mountain that we can see.
Yeah, is there a house here in the valley that we can see right now that you haven't done some work on?
Probably.
But can you help them evaluate the system, or is that more for a septic contractor to do that?
Yeah,
type
a
of work?
septic contractor will uncover the septic tank, and you probably want to get it pumped out every 5 years or so. And septic contractors will do that. I'm sometimes called in to find where the system is, but to tell you the truth, there's people who are better skilled at that than I am.
Yeah.
And I just generally don't have the time to go searching for an existing system. Now, if a homeowner wants to add bedrooms to a house, they need a building permit to add bedrooms, the health department's going to say, well, you need a soil evaluation if there's not a recent soil evaluation on file. And then people call me and we figure out, okay, the existing system is over here, and if we add on, we can put it over here. And we work out those kinds of things. What's that, a hayride up there?
Yeah, it looks like a little impromptu hayride. We have all kinds of interesting things going on here in Wolf Fork Valley this afternoon. So one other thing, Tom, before I let you get to the paid work, that you mentioned when you came over to POS and talked to us, as you actually mentioned that products that are on the market these days, antibacterial soaps and things of that nature, And the other thing you talked about was some of the additives that people put in their septics. Two separate questions, but I was fascinated by your answers. Could you just talk about those two sort of unique issues? Because I think most people think antibacterial soap, that's great, I'm making my hands cleaner and that's better and safer. And hey, I put that additive in my septic and that's really good for it.
Yeah, well, germs are good, folks. We need germs. I like to say, and I say this tongue in cheek totally, but I like to say that human beings are biological mechanisms created by microorganisms to wage war on other microorganisms. Bacteria rule the world. We have bacteria growing on our skin, in our digestive tract, and soil is much the same. Soil is the Earth's digestive system. It's full of bacteria, and you want that bacteria to be working. And in fact, that's really what an on-site septic system does. The bacteria in the soil treat and kill the human pathogens. They clean the water up. The water goes somewhere. It comes out in the stream or pond. It goes into groundwater. The water doesn't disappear, but what we want is for the human pathogens to disappear.
Right.
So people put those products, flush it down the toilet, into the septic tank, flush it down the drain, and it's supposed to help your septic system digest the products that are in there. And to a degree, they probably help. But I've been to a number, every year we go to continuing education courses, and I've heard a number of presentations from universities who did studies and tried to figure out, okay, do these products work? Do they help? Do they change? Do they make a difference? And uniformly, every time they do a study, everyone I've ever heard, they say, well, we really can't see any difference between not treating your septic system and treating your septic system.
Yeah.
Because bacteria will just grow wherever they can. But folks, they can't grow where we put substances that kill them. And so, antibacterial soap, maybe in this time of COVID, before you walk into the grocery store, you might want to use something like that, but don't put it excessively down your drain, because it kills the bacteria that's going to make your septic system work. Clorox, cleansers, bleaches, things like that you put down the drain, they're gonna potentially cause your septic system to fail.
Yeah.
I always encourage people to don't use that stuff.
Try to avoid them. So.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you for your time and your use of very simple terms so that people like me can understand it. I imagine a lot of people will be like, they're going to rewind it to replay that. But I like that the earth or the soil is the Earth's digestive system. I think I'm going to use that one in the future. So
soil is the most underappreciated natural resource and the most important. We came from the soil. The Bible tells us that God took dust from the ground and he formed man. We came from the soil, and we need to care for it. Did you know, I learned this recently reading a book. I continue to review and read books about soil just for continuing education credit. And I learned that 100% of the atmospheric carbon that we create by burning fossil fuels, coal and oil, and we hear about all this carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. 100% of that could be sequestered every year if we just took care of our soil. You see so much soil that is bare ground, that's eroding away. Desertification is a major problem around the world, and it's all because of our failure to take care of the soil the way we should.
Yeah,
we could sequester all that carbon in the soil, and well, I could go on about what else we could do, but
So if I'm out working in the yard and someone comes up and asks me what I'm doing, I could technically say that I'm sequestering the soil.
There you go,
For
yeah.
carbon absorption.
that's right.
Right, and then they'd probably leave me alone so I could work, right?
You're helping the atmosphere. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. No, it makes sense. Well, I think Rabun County has a disproportionately high percentage of the population then, right, that is
Yeah, that's
being
caring
friendly
for
to the
soil.
environment. That's
Absolutely.
right.
All these trees, all this forest makes for great soil.
Yeah,
And great carbon sequestering.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Say that 3 times fast. That'll impress some people. So, well, Tom, thank you again for your time
Yeah.
and for everything you
Yeah,
do
thank
to sort of help homeowners and prospective buyers here.
Well, thank you, Roger, for your channel. I've watched your channel, and folks, I recommend Roger's channel. Look up his other videos. It's really interesting. You can learn things to go see and do in Rabun County. You can meet some interesting people in this county, and you've interviewed people I know, and of course some of those were the first ones I went to. I know him, and it's great. You know, you learn more about your friends and neighbors. And I really appreciate your channel. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Doing
welcome.
Good work here.
We have a great time doing it. We really do.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, will you join me? I always wave and say, "We'll see you next time, Rabun County."
Yep. See ya. Thank you.